Joining us now, we've got Michael J. Romer, who's the managing partner over at real estate law firm Romer DeBoss. Great to have you here with us this morning. Is this data in line with your expectations?
It is, Brad. It has been a record year in the housing market throughout the country. We were looking at a perfect storm with record low inventory, record high demand, record low interest rates, and all of this just created a ton of activity. And that activity, of course, drove up prices. And we also saw an influx of investors. So this 18% uptick in pricing is certainly in line with expectations. But the interesting part here is the impact that it's had on those first-time home buyers, because when they're competing with the likes of big hedge funds and large investment groups, it's really hard for that first-time home buyer to compete.
So, what does that tell you about the state of the housing market right now?
Well, it's very active. I mean, I'm a real estate lawyer, based in New York City, a very active residential market, but throughout the country, the residential market has been extremely active. But what we're seeing is it's really a housing shortage. We're looking at a situation where there are approximately 6 million fewer homes than there are um, interested parties. So you're looking at a situation where it's a supply and demand situation, and the supply really isn't there. There's a lot of efforts using affordable housing and other mechanisms to try and create more inventory. But right now we're looking at a real inventory problem. So I anticipate these prices will remain. And when you look at these interest rates, the mortgage interest rates right now, you're looking at a 30-year fixed in the low threes. Although it's a little higher than what it was last year, this is still relatively free money. When you look to what I took out my first mortgage, 15 years ago, it's a huge difference. So there's still a lot of opportunity, but if you want to enter the market, you have to be prepared to pay.
Certainly. We were having a discussion yesterday, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, about the home flipping market as well, considering the type of inventory that also brings into play as well. Even as the business becoming more popular, average profit margins falling according to property database Adam. With that in mind, what kind of hit on inventory might that have in the home flipping space?
Well, the flipping market it's a tough market right now because you have to bear in mind with inflation and supply chain issues, the cost of renovations has increased exponentially. So when you're looking at flipping, you have to look at first the cost of purchasing the home. So you're buying a home which maybe is 18% higher than it was the year before. And then if you're looking to do renovations, those renovations are going to cost more than the year before. So it's hard for the flippers to make a profit in that scenario. So when you're looking at that, you are seeing some activity in the flipping market, but right now the increase in prices and the increase in costs, coupled with inflation, it really is killing the drive of the flipper.
Certainly, and again, probably important to mention that that only represents roughly about 5.7% of all U.S. home sales. So with that in mind, the majority of it really leaning into the existing home sales and some of those new home sales that may be popping up as well in some other states. With that in mind, where are you keeping an eye on where those closing prices are at right now, considering for some of those new homes that have yet to be delivered, they're incurring some of the higher costs as well because the projects are actually taking more to actually produce at the end of the day.
Yeah, just circling back real fast, one thing I do want to point out is, 20% of the housing transactions in the past year were from investors. So those investors included small investors, large investors. So the individual homeowner was competing with a lot of investors on that front. Now, when you're looking at the new construction or the new build market, you have to realize things like lumber. The cost of lumber went up triple in the last year when you're looking at inflation. So that obviously has an impact on the end sale price to the buyer. So this certainly has driven up the cost of new home sales, but that demand is still there. And you still have a lot of folks that are moving from one metro area to another or from a metro area to the suburbs. And typically speaking, when you have professionals in a metro area that maybe you're looking to have a family and move to the suburbs, many of them are looking to new. So there is still a lot of demand for new development.
Just lastly, while we have you, would love to get your predictions for 2022 and the housing market more broadly.
Well, I am an optimist by nature, but in looking at the numbers and looking at the statistics that I've seen, I think we're going to see an uptick in housing activity going into 2022. I think the demand is still there. The interest rates have actually dropped again, mortgage interest rates in the last month, so you're in the low threes. I think you're going to see a lot of activity in the housing market. And when you're looking at other investment vehicles, things like crypto and all of these other items that people could invest in, there still is a huge interest in investing in real estate, that real asset that people can touch and know that they own something that over time will appreciate in value. I think that demand is still there, and I think there's plenty of activity to come in 2022.
Well, between you and me being Eagles and Giants fans, both of us have to be optimists by nature this season. Michael J. Romer,
Well said, Brad.
managing partner over at real estate law firm Romer DeBoss, joining us here today.